and he did steal a lot of my thunder because he's just recognizing reality. First off, I want to thank everybody for inviting me and the folks that run Talkers. I want to thank Ted Anderson for the last 14 years backing me up with my radio show as it's grown. And it's great to be here in New York, and I'm glad I flew in after it cooled down a bit, because you know it's cold down there in Texas. We can't handle the heat. All right, look, I don't really write speeches. You know, sometimes I write some notes, and I did this morning, and I got a couple pages of them here. But I think that Lionel really encapsulated at the end of his speech where I'm going to begin, and that is there is a great transformation happening. I mean, everybody knows that. And I've been invited here because folks in talk radio realize that there's a storm going on. Well, actually, that's just the front edge. The real storm is coming. Now, the landscape of the future is being formed right now. And again, all of that is a basic truth that you know. What's happening is the social engineers, with the development of electronic media, you know, starting with radio and then television in the last 80 years, the social engineers, Edward Bernays and others, got a jump on it and realized it, and the Department of War realized it, and they all wrote books, and they said, we're going to basically standardize humanity in the same way that Henry Ford was designing the assembly line. Okay? And so what's happened because of the internet that DARPA and the NSA set up, they openly said in the 60s, this will control everything, we'll track everything in reality, it'll be a total panopticon of surveillance and control so that we can carry out our engineering. And this is all public. And they said, we'll keep people in this tiny reality while the technocracy develops a separate breakaway civilization. And they call that the New World Order banking cartel. But what's actually happening through that system and through the claim of national security, a whole nother world of technology, black ops systems has been developed, and the whole ruse of terrorism is the pretext to put the clamp down on the population and then also begin to basically come out in the open with the system, where you have the trusted travelers, the normal travelers, and the untrusted travelers, and no one knows how you get on those magical lists. It's a new class system. And why do I raise that point? And then I'll get into new media and ideas that I can impart to you if you think they have any value. And it's this. What's happened is they plan to use the worldwide wiretap, the web, as a control grid. But it did blow back. There were individuals that recognized what was happening and desperately used that system in a way that the establishment thought we wouldn't. They overestimated with their hubris and their arrogance, because these technocrats literally have serious delusions of grandeur. And because that's happened now, the population has awakened. Now, they haven't awakened to the full spectrum of what's happening, but they've awakened that there's more going on in the world than the top 3 or 4 stories every day. And they've awakened to that major changes are happening. And in their gut, they're searching. And in that searching and getting outside the box, to use the cliche, and then getting outside of that box and that box, and really reaching out to people and being real, that's how you connect with them. Folks know that things are canned and packaged, and that there is fear in the media. They know that there is pressure on media figures. They understand that. And more, as this collision takes place, the system is desperate. And that's why we're seeing open discussion by not just the White House regulations czar, Cass Sunstein, and others, but also from, quote, conservative circles. You have the conservative mainliners and the mainline, quote, liberals, that are just 2 different flavors of Kool-Aid. You know, one is strawberry, and one is grape, but it's all got the cyanide in it. And people are recognizing that, so there is this perfect storm of government and old media coming in and openly trying to write the narrative right now to begin censoring and taxing and regulating and harassing. And there's a whole constellation of systems they're going to use to do that. And I want to speak to you about that, because you guys know that there's a revolution happening in media and that things are changing. And there's a lot of factors there. It's also the fact that we're going into a depression is why your industry, my industry, I don't really consider myself in an industry, I'm on a mission, is in so much trouble. So there's a lot of factors. Remember, I'm going to try to be focused in this because there's so many points that I have a tendency to have the long form of talk radio to really be able to flesh out different layers of it. But I'm here to warn you. If you think things are crazy now, notice how everything is accelerating, everything is quickening as we approach different layers towards technological singularity. Okay? So if you think we're moving fast now, if you think things are changing now, it is going to grow in a hyperbolic curve starting in the next several years. Now, through this crisis, the system is going to come in and has openly announced it's going to go after the web. It's going to go after people like myself. And in that vector, in that target scope, the establishment sees talk radio as a very large part of that enemy complex. So you are seen as the enemy by the social engineers because they can't program you, they can't totally control you, they can't watch everything you're doing. People are able to call in. Regional stories that they don't want out of their compartmentalized matrix can be released. Brush fires can begin very quickly. And number one, scandals of the corrupt, decadent elite who've been acting like this for a very long time can now come out and they can't control it. And if you think stuff with Wiener's wiener is a big deal, it's many levels above that in the type of outright corruption. The establishment is accustomed to this power. They're accustomed to doing whatever they want. And they've been very arrogant, and now they're beginning to realize, wait a minute, we got caught with our pants down. I've known for years that my radio show and the stuff I was doing on the internet from the metrics was bigger than most of the biggest talk show hosts in the country we've added together. But quite frankly, one of the few areas where I've been not deceptive but didn't show my hand was, for a long time I wouldn't brag. And I just sat there and waited because I understood the danger and I needed to get to a point where the enemy went ahead and recognized and began attacking, which was exactly what I wanted. Because the enemy, the global social engineers, the technocrats, again, maybe intelligent, but at the same time, they have that subconscious arrogance of their ego and their narcissist. And so they still think that when they attack you, that it gives them power and that they're discrediting you. But the truth is, they could attack a maggot-covered dead dog in a ditch and people would run to the maggot-covered dead dog and begin loving it because they hate the establishment, the system so much. You understand that? That's why when Politico called me up and last year when the Republican round of attacks on Rand Paul was happening, they were trying to bring him down before the fake left wing of this buzzard kicked in. And that transition was happening, and they were trying to get me to say things, that would embarrass Rand Paul because I know him, talked to him, he's been on the show some, and I've interviewed him in Austin, and I know his father well. And I said, if you really want to hurt Rand Paul, I said, endorse him. and I said, and they were so arrogant, they printed it. But I said, the only way you can hurt him is endorsing him. And some of the more sophisticated people figured that out. That's why they got scared of Ron Paul 3 years ago, and so started Ron Paul 3 years ago and started trying to put him everywhere, oversaturated. That's been the attempt there, so it loses that revolutionary electricity, and it hasn't been that successful. So the point is the system's running out of bullets, and that's why they're openly now trying to introduce the idea of censorship. And, I don't really have to listen to talk radio, though I do addictively, but everybody sends me clips of things and boil downs. And I'm going to start getting into some of the meat and potatoes here of how I technically have done things here in a moment. But about a month ago, I started getting emails, and my crew was like, listen to this clip, listen to that clip, and they cue them up, and I'm hearing, I heard different national talk shows, some of them on hundreds of stations, saying, I'm not going to go to talkers because Alex Jones is there. and again, this is a talk show host, First Amendment, and the system that you are using for your livelihood and your passion, that's why you really do it, is you want to communicate with your fellow humans, that basic human trait that makes us human, to telegraph knowledge and information, could sit there and say, I don't want to hear Alex Jones speak. And that right there is really running up the white flag. That is somebody showing how weak they are and how scared they are. And no matter what happens to Alex Jones, this information is not going away. And then I was sent other clips of other talk show hosts on their national shows thinking they're hurting me by trying to damage your conference, not wanting you to hear what I have to say. I mean, that is so un-American. That's so authoritarian. It's anti-human, and it is the plague. People that talk like that are traitors against liberty and traitors for the First Amendment. Free speech is something incredibly rare across the world. Yeah. Millions have died for it, and we treat it like it's toilet paper. It's not. Yeah, it's the precious jewel that must be protected above all else. It is the fount of liberty and freedom and private property and our children's future. Yeah. Everything lies on it. And the attack against free speech is in full gear. And what must not be tolerated, let them say it, but go after them. What must not be tolerated is any, quote, liberal, libertarian, conservative, and that fake three flavors thing they're offering, who attacks the First Amendment. We need to get organized. We need to make it the issue. I mean, look, if I can routinely do things similar now to what Grudge does and force an issue out and keep doing it for like a week or two sometimes if I have to, and then I see it blossom and explode. Imagine what all of us can do if we start defending liberty. If we start not just talking about lining up Arabs and killing them, because that's the new freedom in America, but if we actually really opened up the Declaration of Independence again and said, we're into this, we're not liberal, we're not conservative, we love freedom, we're constitutionalists. Because this isn't about just getting more listeners, this isn't about reaching more people or making more money. If that's what you want, telling the truth, being active, being aggressive, it will all come. Yeah. But people realize when something's real, and they instinctively make that connection to you when you are telling them the truth, or when you are telling them what you believe. And so that's basically where we stand. So we have great transformation coming. This is only the birthing pains. We have the monopoly system that owns the Republicans and Democrats and the other major parties of the world. They're mopping up the few last remnants of resistance right now in third world countries, most of those places. Again, see, there's also this paradigm system where if you aren't for mopping that up, oh, well, you're saying Gaddafi's good. No, I'm saying Gaddafi's bad, and so are the globalist forces attacking him. That's just, in a risk game, the last pieces being taken off the table in countries while we're individually targeted. Now, continuing here. There is a war by the monopoly forces that are not free market. They talk about how they're corporate. They talk about free market all day. They're the opposite. And people need to realize and study history. This is common sense, and I'm sure it's a smart crowd here. You know this, that the monopoly men are the absolute enemy of private property and of freedom of expression and everything that's good and wholesome. So there's a war against you. You are not there with David Rockefeller. You're not there with Queen Beatrix. You're not there with the rest of the Rockefellers and all the big 8 families. This is a mafia. So you're not. Now I understand they fund things, they own things, they try to steer things. The point is, it's us or them. Bush gave that speech. It's you're either with us or you're with the terrorists. Okay. Well, you need to make your decision. You're at the crossroads. Choose what side, because these globalists will phase you out. These globalists do not want a bunch of people running around that are intelligent and know how to communicate. They want to shut off your systems. And if I had time, I could get into how they are planning to do that. But again, you can tune in the radio show. We break it down and give you the citations where they're openly meeting and pushing it. It's all there hidden in plain view. So decide who you're going to serve. You got to serve somebody like Bob Dylan says, choose what you serve. As for me and my house, I serve the truth, because out of that everything good comes. The truth sells, the truth is exciting. And obviously there's the stagnation that's going on in the media. People are so tired of the Republican-Democrat football being passed back and forth. They're so tired of politicians trying to craft what they say and be careful and push the same baloney over and over again, to where people, exactly what Lionel said, tune out. And if you go to the major studies that are out there, you can just